So I've got a clip I want to show you guys from Trump's former faith advisor, Paula White Cain. I know what you're thinking. Trump with a faith advisor. I mean, can you imagine having that job? You got to go in and talk to Donald Trump about his faith. I imagine all that ended up happening was ended up talking about his ego. And if she was his faith advisor, all I can say is that she failed miserably because he is not a representation at all of Christianity, and neither is she. And what she says in this next clip is absolutely horrible because she says that by fostering LGBTQ children, that is wickedness and that is an assault on their beliefs. I'm going to play you this horrid clip and then we're going to come back and just debunk the hell out of it.
To adopt. I can tell you how there are 319,000 foster care kids and how this administration has put out memos and wordage that basically, if you do not teach and train on an LGBTQ agenda, if you do not nurture with that, then you are a hostile environment that is not worthy to be able to adopt or be a foster care parent. I can just go on and on. But at the end of the day, they are attacking. It is an attack upon our faith, upon our beliefs, upon Christianity, upon every person of faith. And I believe that there are people in this room that are going to stand up and say, come on, devil, we've had enough. No more. We're drawing the line here. And what I mean by devil is Ephesians 6:12 that says we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, wickedness, and darkness. This is an ideology that is against God, against our faith, and against our right, and we will put a stop to it come November. If every Christian gets up and they vote, come on, only 25 to 30% of Christians get out and vote. But if we will talk to our neighbors and talk to our friends and go and let them know the truth. I just started on religious liberty. I'm looking here at Donna. I didn't even get to Israel or all the other things I can tell you about that other people will tell you about. But what I do know is you are the majority. And you, your friends and your neighbors and the people that you go to church with, when we stand up, we will reclaim the republic. God bless you.
First of all, I cannot stand whenever someone uses the phrases gay ideology or gay agenda. It's not an ideology. They don't have an agenda. The ones with an ideology and the ones with an agenda are Donald Trump and his supporters. They have an ideology and their agenda is to force it upon anyone who disagrees with them. Now, if she wants to talk about the Bible, I can talk that all day with her because the Bible, first of all, is a book that is open to interpretation. Everyone that reads that book takes something differently away from it, no matter who you are. There's parts in there that you will like, and there's parts in there that will touch you, and you will take those and apply those to your life. There's a whole lot of parts that you probably still don't understand. I know there's still parts of it I don't understand. And there's parts of it you'll probably find yourself disagreeing with, but you can sit there and you can twist it and manipulate it to make it say what you want to say. And that's why we have over 200 different denominations of Christianity in this country or actually around the world, we have over 200 different denominations of Christianity because everyone sees it differently. And I would argue that within those denominations, there's disagreements. I mean, the little small town I grew up in, we had a whole lot of churches in that part of the world. The majority of them, I would say, were Southern Baptist churches. They also had Pentecostal churches, Methodist churches. I think we only had one Catholic church in the whole town. But for the most part, it was Southern Baptist churches. Now, when I was growing up, if you went to any of them, you would hear a difference of opinion. You would hear the minister preach and carry himself in a completely different manner. And you would have things that were allowed to happen at this Southern Baptist church that weren't allowed to happen over at this Southern Baptist church because this group of people interpreted it differently and they decided to do something different with it. So when we say the things we say, it's not an attack on their faith at all. What it is an attack on their hatred and on their bigotry and on their homophobia. That's what we're pointing out. Because every person of faith does not agree with Paula White. Every person of faith does not agree with Donald Trump. Not every Christian out there believes in this shit and backs it up the way Trump does. There's a whole lot of people who have walked away from the Republican Party, and they're Christian people who still believe in God. But they walked away from it because they couldn't stand to see what Trump had done with religion. They couldn't stand to see what he had done with Christianity. So it's not every person of faith. I have gay friends who go to church and believe in God. It took them a while to find a place that would accept them, but they finally did. They found a group of people who would accept them and not sit and preach Leviticus to them every week. But, I can't imagine what it would be like to go through that and try to go around finding a group of people that you could hang around. I mean, my heart truly goes out to anyone who's ever been in that situation. I had a hard enough time fitting in just being a straight guy that really didn't believe in it. And I can tell you this much, if you ever do come out and say you're agnostic in my part of the world, that's probably the closest I'll ever know how it felt to coming out of the closet, because, man, I had people turn on me that I would have never imagined ever would have or could have, and said some of the most hurtful, spiteful things you ever heard just because I said I kind of don't believe in this anymore. But getting back to the whole Paula White thing, when she says it's attack on their faith and their ideology, no, their ideology is to weaponize the Bible against people that they disagree with. And they cherry pick out the old ancient verses and they use those, the ones from Leviticus, and they ignore the fact that Jesus preached love and acceptance. They never want to talk about that. You never hear them talking about that part of Jesus. You never hear them talking about the Jesus that fed the hungry, or gave the thirsty something to drink, or clothed the naked, or welcomed the strangers, or the one that, you never hear them bring up that Jesus. It's just always Old Testament God is who they go in there and they pick out and they use it as a way to weaponize it against people they disagree with. And it's absolute bullshit, folks. It truly is. They're the ones with the ideology and they're the ones with the agenda. And if they truly do believe in God, then guess what? God is the judge. God is the jury and the executioner. If you believe in that story, he's all three of those things. And all Jesus ever told you to do is accept people and love people, love your neighbor and treat them the way you would treat yourself. That's all he ever said. And so I don't understand. Well, I do understand. It's people that hate, and it's people that wants to use it as a weapon of hate. And it's a shame that the book got turned into that. But that's what happens when a book is allowed to be interpreted any way someone sees fit. You're going to have deranged, unhinged people pick it up and do deranged and unhinged things when they read it. I mean, how many manifestos have we read from people who read the Bible and then went out and did something heinous? How many people used it to justify their violence and justify their hatred and justify their wrongdoings? There's been plenty of it. And it's a shame because there's a lot of good people out there who have took out the good parts and tried to live a good, clean life and have lived a good, clean, productive life and didn't hurt anybody. But it all falls under that same umbrella. And that's why, me personally, that's why I walked away from it, because I was just a doubter and I couldn't believe in the story as a whole. I had problems. I won't go into it, but I just had problems with the story as a whole that I couldn't buy into. But it's a book that's open to interpretation. And when it is, then people can interpret it however they want to. And if you read it deep enough and get far enough in the weeds with it, there's a whole lot of talk from Jesus about the last days and how there's going to be people that will come along and use his words against people. He even talks about it. He talks about how there'll be false prophet that will rise up and they'll deceive the very elect. The smartest of people will be duped by him because they will look as though they're preaching his word. They will look as though that they're, I guess, trying to further his agenda, but they weren't at all. And the Bible talks about how on the last day of the day of judgment, they'll stand before him and they will say they've done marvelous works in his name. And he'll say, "Depart from me, you are a worker of iniquity. I never knew you." And every time I read that verse, I picture people like Paula White and I picture people like Donald Trump, because they have used this to weaponize it against people. And there's nothing at all Christian about it. It does not reflect the true teachings of Jesus. And it's a real shame that Jesus got strung up on a cross and people took his story and used it as a way to hurt people. That's a true shame. So all I can say is that that doesn't represent Paula White, Donald Trump, and their brand of hatred. Doesn't represent all Christians. And I try to keep an open mind to that. I know so many people that are truly good people, friends of mine who are truly good people, go to church all the time. They don't judge me and I don't judge them, because at the end of the day, folks, that's how it's supposed to be.